Hey, Chris Manning here from the Locked On Cavs podcast with my co-host, my co-pilot, the birthday boy, Evan Dammarell. On today's show, Austin Carr is redacted for the Cavs. This is a kids-friendly show. After the Cavs won 105-92 on Wednesday night in LeVert's debut, Darius Garland also returned after missing 4 games with a back issue. Let's get into everything Cavs and that win and LeVert's debut on today's show.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Before we get too deep into today's show, we want to thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every single day. Remember, we are free and available on all platforms. That includes YouTube, where we're over 1,000 subs on the way to 1,500. Help us get there by, let's say, the All-Star break. That's next week. Go subscribe today. Also, today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. That's BetOnline. That's where the game starts. Evan, Caris LeVert's debut, 28 minutes, 11.4 of them from the field, 1 of 3 from 3, 2 assists, 0 turnovers coming off the bench for the Cleveland Cavaliers, again, in a 13-point win at home against the San Antonio Spurs. What did you think of LeVert's debut?
I think he looked pretty good, all things considered. I didn't really have that much of expectations considering he only had one practice, but I was never really too concerned about his fit and just how he would debut with the Cavs. I think talent trumps everything. I think being in a winning situation versus being what he was in Indiana. Granted, I don't think Cleveland is going to be competing for a championship, but I appreciate the optimism, and the hashtag gets us crowd up appreciates it too. But yeah, no, he looked good. I think he does add a new wrinkle, a new dynamic to Cleveland's offense. I think the Jared Allen alley-oops are a lot of fun too. There's a lot to unpack here, but let me get your thoughts.
Yeah, I thought he was good. I think him coming off the bench is interesting. I think we'll see how that progresses going forward. But what I will say is that I think he clearly provided value. I think he clearly provided something this team needs. We saw him creating his own shot, creating for others a little bit off of Darius Garland pick and rolls that were that didn't go anywhere, actions that didn't go anywhere. We saw him be a guy that's going to fill in these spaces after that initial action, and I think that was something that really, really was missing from this Cavs team. Right, like this was something that we clearly thought this team kind of needed. It made the offense stagnate at times when they didn't have these other avenues to go, particularly since Rubio and Sexton have been down. This was a guy that I think even if, he didn't play like a great game, like this wasn't like an A-level Caris LeVert game. He just scored 40 points the other night. This guy's capable of much more output than we saw from him in this particular debut. But what I think we saw was a guy that's going to fill certain things. You saw him make transit. You saw him just be able to make decisions and play comfortably with the ball in his hand. And you saw the JB Bickerstaff is going to empower him to do so, right? Like I think one of the things we wanted to see was, okay, is JB going to embrace this guy from day one? Is he going to take him and kind of put him in the thick of things right away? And he did that. And I think that is an interesting place to start. It was interesting to see that he plays with Garland to start. And then he separated the two by playing with Rondo. So I how he's used and who he's used with will be interesting to look at going forward. What I do think is that the early returns, the value he's providing, I think was a positive from the get-go. You clearly have an idea of what the plan is within this Cavs structure for Caris LeVert as of we understand him right now.
Yeah, no, I am curious to see whether or not he remains a fixture on the bench for the Cavs or whether or not he starts. I talked about this with Mac Robinson when he was hosting for Chico the other night. Like, do you want to downgrade the defense quite a bit with Isaac Okoro going to the bench and upgrade the offense probably, again, quite a bit by starting Caris LeVert? I think JB Bickerstaff also as a coach is going to empower him. You saw LeVert doing a little bit of just some things that he did in Brooklyn, some things that he tried to do in Indiana when it was out of the ecosystem of Carlisle's offense. Bickerstaff made it clear that they don't run set plays every possession. He'd rather let his players just play through the flow of the offense and just pick and choose on how things look and how things are going. You definitely noticed whenever Caris LeVert was on the floor, players are setting a hell of a lot more picks and setting a lot more screen and rolls in those scenarios, especially Kevin Love. Like, he was trying to get Caris LeVert some clean looks from the top of the key as much as possible. But yeah, I can't complain much. I think this is the guy the Cavs always wanted to get once Rubio and Sexton went down for the year. I think this is the guy that's just been always linked to the Cavs, and I think this was a good way to see how things went. And granted, the Spurs team plays harder than the record indicates, but they still are a bad team at the end of the day. And I wonder how they will look. I mean, they play Indiana on Friday, so it's not really a good indicator, but they play Philly immediately after that. So I wonder how they'll look against a Philadelphia team that might have James Harden. Who knows? We're recording this on the day of the deal zone, more or less. So we'll see what goes there. But yeah, I'm just it was a good debut. Let's just see how it goes. I'd like to have a deeper sample size than one game before I fully bake my takes, but it's a promising sign of things to come.
Yeah, I think again, you do want to see it develop. You do want to like give a chance for some data to accumulate for him to get more comfortable, for him to get, practice time is fleeting, and the All-Star break's coming up, and guys will go their separate ways. And this is one of the tricky things about integration of new pieces and things. But look, we saw a guy that clearly just played in a comfortable level, looked comfortable, was aggressive. I think the effort level was high for him coming into a new situation. I think his fit with Darius, I think, is just going to be clean. Again, like this is not like an AA plus fit. I think that's still the thing you see. His first shot being a catch and shoot three was like kind of like a funny thing because that's not what he's really going to provide. He's going to provide you being 6'6", 6'7", and creating and attacking off the dribble and things. But like he took a 3-pointer comfortably and he made it. And I think the other big thing from this game, perhaps just a bigger reminder for what this team's all about, is that Darius Garland comes back and looked incredible. Darius Garland was like just flat out awesome in this game. Didn't miss a beat coming back after missing 4 games with that back issue. And like, Evan, you look at Darius and it's like, yeah, like getting Caris LeVert is nice. Getting Caris LeVert is needed. Like this team is better for having Caris LeVert. Darius Garland is the engine of this basketball team. Darius Garland
Oh,
is
absolutely.
is the is the dude on this basketball team. Like Mobley played well, Allen played well.
Like, I get why Austin Carr is horny for the Cavs when I watch Darius Garland play.
Hey, good lord. Darius Garland, 30 minutes, 12 of 15 from the field, 3 of 3 from 3, 6 assists, did have 6 turnovers, 27 points. 4 of the 5 Cavs starters in double digits, with LeVert being the 5th guy in double figures off the bench. Look, Evan, the Cavs won by 13 on a night where like Kevin Love was 3 of 13. Jetty Osman only took 4 shots and played 20 minutes. Probably notable that Osman only played 20. And we only saw like Lamar Stevens in a cameo appearance basically in Caris LeVert's first game. That's probably worth monitoring going forward. But they won cleanly, kind of had a bad first quarter. Garland kind of comes more alive as the game goes on. I don't think there's like very much to look at this game and say, okay, this didn't go the Cavs' way. This was an impressive performance, blah, blah, blah. Like, I felt like everything for the most part in this game. Some little stuff, obviously, but like big picture wise, like this is as good of as a debut as I think you would kind of hope for LeVert, and getting a win in Garland's return is just as a big deal as the East remains pretty competitive.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Like I said, they play Philly not too soon, and it appears that Adrian Wojnarowski is walking back his initial takes. I think his is coming from the Brooklyn side of things, but
Well, I would say reporting, not takes. There's a difference, and
he's
well,
reporting things he's heard, and it seems like they're very skewed on the Brooklyn side of things. But if Philadelphia does get James Harden, I don't know if he will play because the hamstring thing might be legit because it was a problem for him last year when he was at the Nets as well. But that definitely shifts the dynamic of what Philadelphia is working with because they might have to gut part of their roster as well in order to get James Harden. And I mean, shouts to Daryl Morey for remaining firm and going big name hunting with Ben Simmons. But at the end of the day, that could be a completely different ball game if James Harden is available. If not, it could be still a pretty tough matchup for the Cavs. But like they have to get through Indiana first. This is a team that they struggled with a little bit. Granted, those Domantas Sabonis was still on the team. Miles Turner will not be available, I would assume, when they play Indiana on Friday. But yeah, this is getting a win in Darius Garland's return is good. You just got to keep this positive momentum going. Maybe if Garland's back is still a long-term issue, you find a way to maybe rest him against Indiana because you want to have all hands on deck when they play Philly.
Yeah, we'll see where this goes. Cavs again do play Philly this weekend, and it's trade deadline day. We'll see if the Cavs make any more moves. We'll see if this Harden thing goes through. A very big day in the NBA with the Cavs, of course, already made their move. All right, Evan. After the break, we're getting into awards. That is MVP, stat of the night, and play of the night. But first, I'm gonna tell everyone about Bet Online, the official betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. They have you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. As football it wraps up, there's still a ton to go. There's the big game on Sunday, but there's college hoops, pro hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, and real lifetime updates of current games. BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news of the season. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers they have available for the 2022 season and, for the big game this weekend. That's BetOnline, and that is where the game starts. Check them out today at betonline.net, the best spot for all of your betting needs. Evan, let's get into awards. There's one MVP here, and it's Darius Garland. Dude's a deserving all-star. Dude is vital to this Cavs team.
I mean, hey, now he is an all-star. He got his game on and played, but yeah, like I said, I get why Austin Carr is horny for the Cavs. This Cavs team has a different dynamic, has a different level when they have him on the floor. I am curious to see maybe how they look like Friday if they decide just to actively rest him before the game against Philly this weekend, and wonder maybe if they play Caris LeVert at the point a little bit because JB Bickerstaff thought LeVert's a 2-3 in their offense, but he has the ability to be a 1-3 as LeVert shared with the media. But
saying he could guard fours was also at times I like that he slipped in the little caveat of sometimes he's not I can't really do this, but I'm okay, you understand yourself, and I respect that.
I mean, Phoenix plays Jay Crowder at the 4. I think he could defend Jay Crowder in scenarios.
But that's different than some
like a 4. But yeah, Darius is clearly by and far the MVP. The Cavs offense just looks so juiced while he's out there. They always look juiced while he's out there. He plays freely. He does have some Steve Nash qualities to him. He really got us as older Cavs fans when he said his favorite All-Star moment was watching Kyrie cook Brandon Knight in the Rising Stars game on the Jumbotron last night. So it's always fun to see Darius out there. Yeah, it's just he's the MVP. There's no other better player for the Cavs last night, just consistently from wire to wire. And he played it on limited minutes too, which is even more impressive.
Yeah, dude's a very, very good basketball player. Okay, Evan, play of the night for me. I'm gonna do a kind of a Chris Manning thing here because this is what I do. So 8:42 left in the third quarter. We see Jared Allen, who not an all-star, but in our hearts, if not in reality, will be on the rising in the skills challenge, which I think will be funky and weird. He posts up Derek White on a switch, and he dribbles into lane, goes to his left, and looks like he's maybe going for an offhand hook. But he passes right to Isaac Okoro in the corner. He kind of read that they were going to leave McDermott and the others were going to leave Okoro in the corner. Just him making passes out of posting up is such an advancement from I think where he was last year. And I think it's just a reminder that this guy has a little more to his game than we thought even at the beginning of the season. This was just kind of also a really good Okoro game. He looked really confident. He was 4-6. He played with a ton of effort and energy on both ends of the floor, particularly on the defensive end. There's a clip going around of him just putting Doug McDermott in just I don't want to say prison because prison is just has such a negative connotation, but just a very uncomfortable position of just him tracking him around. Really, really good stuff on this play. Jared Allen has shown some growth, and this was a little thing, but you love to see Jared Allen not just attacking those mismatches and going for a bucket, but he made a really good read and got hit an open shooter, and that's just growth, baby. That's growth.
It really is growth. Sorry, you said prison has such a negative connotation. It just made me think of the season 1 finale of Dave, where we watched that 8-minute montage of him and his song about going to jail after exposing himself to kids on stage.
Okay,
but
enough about Dave, Evan. Let's move on.
No, yeah, no, that's a good play that I pick. My first one's a little silly. It's just Kevin Love's dunk attempt. I respect Kevin Love at like 48 years old to be attempting a dunk with his 10 inches of vert. It was like watching Zach Randolph trying to jump over a phone book, but that was just my tongue-in-cheek play that I picked. But my honest play that I picked was early into the game. Caris LeVert checks in, and he really showed his offensive impact and the upside he could add to Cleveland's offense as like a secondary playmaker and a secondary creator where he drives into the lane. This is what he was kind of brought in to do, is to provide pressure at the rim from the top, the key. And instead of just attempting like a layup, or I think he drew two defenders, he did a wraparound pass and kicked it to Isaac Okoro along the baseline. And Isaac Okoro was wide open for three. Drain that 3-pointer. Shouts to Isaac Okoro. He's looking more and more comfortable from the perimeter as well. But like simple plays like that, where like you read what the defense is giving you and you kick out to a more efficient and obviously more valuable shot, is always a good thing in my book, and something I'll definitely award shout out. Other than that, it's the alley-oop he threw to Jared Allen. Like, that's just fun. Like, I hope the Cavs have more of that in their back pocket soon.
Yeah, I think him and Allen having some chemistry could matter. Like, it could matter, and a lot of them hit the ground running in a way that I think will be worth kind of monitoring. And that little, even if you get one or two of those a game, and it's just another guy to throw passes to Jared Allen, like that's not a bad thing to kind of to have to lean on at times if you need it.
You
Okay,
little rat, you stole my stat of the night.
this is the only stat of the night. I literally like was going to intro this and not steal it. You know, I was going to give you credit. You put this in there. I think Tom Valentine on Twitter was the first person I saw it from to give a full shout out. But um the
Well,
Cavs, you say it. I'm not a thief, Evan. So you tell
okay,
me.
first off, the Cavs had never lost on my birthday whenever I've attended.
Just a-
Chris Manning had me working on my birthday, folks.
Yeah,
Also,
I had you working on your birthday. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's what we did.
Also, the Cavs have not won 34 games in a full season without LeBron since 1997-1998 season. So I was 4 turning 5 when that happened.
Evan, I wanna give an edict here. I want to say this. I think the LeBron stuff is gonna keep, like, we're gonna keep seeing like moments and statistical like markers
Well, I
that like
mean,
they
like, this
because
franchise's legacy is attached to that man. So
yeah, which is like which is unfortunate, right? Like, I think to some degree, like, it is like unfortunate for them that so much of their history is just defined by this one guy, just because like I think it like at a certain point it is just probably like annoying to like have to think about that to some degree. But here's the other thing. The thing I want to say is I think we should like note them the rest of the year as they come up, maybe like, or keep like a running tally of some kind, and then like mention them at the end of the year and try to focus on the now. I think we should do that just to like I think they obviously tell you how far this team has come, but I think that is a point we will keep making it over and over again unless we just like
I
allow
mean, it
ourselves.
also really quantifies the overall success of this season too. Is just
Yeah.
the fact that they've have hit this milestone, and it's the first time they've hit this high since you and I were not even in school yet.
Yeah, we were youths. We were just
We were youths. We were toddlers, technically speaking.
yeah, we were just, some young folks, and the Cavs are competent again in a way that they haven't been in a long, long time.
I
The
mean,
other
big
thing I
is everything.
yeah, the other thing I want to just again just to shout this out is 4 starters in double figures and LeVert. 5 guys in double figures, pretty balanced scoring sheet for the Cavs, even if Garland like had 27 and stuff. Kind of have to feel good about that offensive output in terms of how it looked and how it felt in a way that it felt easy to me. And the stats, I think, kind of bear that out. Okay. After the break, we're going to get into some final trade deadline day stuff and some other little notes from the game. But Evan, you're going to tell everyone first about our friends from Rock Auto.
I absolutely am, folks. You can save time and money when using Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it is now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Winder often pointless or seemingly intimidating questions and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry. You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, or even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, and their prices are reliably low and for every customer. They have everything you need from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution for all your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, locked on in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Check them out today at rockauto.com.
Evan, you might need a Rock Auto part after your voice there. You okay? Everything good?
Yeah, it's just waking up about an hour ago. It's the pre-morning allergy stuff still clearing up, but I'm okay.
Okay, good. Or get you like a carburetor or something to kind of get you going, you little machine man. But Evan, final note from this game. We've said it. I want to just point it out again. Really, really good Isaac Okoro game.
Yeah, he was great.
Also a very good, I think, for the like scoring wise, a little inefficient, missed a couple threes and stuff. But like Evan Mobley, looked pretty good. Looked like a monster in a lot of ways in this game. Just remains a ridiculous NBA player.
Yeah, I really absolutely agree. I think fans I saw were pointing out the fact that he's like shooting like 20-something% from 3-point range. You want him shooting those shots. You want him to feel comfortable shooting those shots. Isaac Okoro was pretty bad shooting wise from 3-point range, but he's finally turning a corner on it too.
Yeah.
You want Evan Mobley to unlock that next level of his offensive game. And if he's trying to take those shots in his rookie season, what the hell? It's not really going to affect the final scores we see at the end of the day. But yeah, this was a good Mobley game. This was a good Okoro game. This is just a good game overall. A hot take. I think the Cavs are so much better when they have Darius Garland on the floor because he really is the engine that makes this offense run.
Yeah, Evan, I usually like twice a week I've been tracking Mobley's just relative impact on both sides of the ball and just with the catch-all stats and I said just to kind of give myself uh an idea. Mobley this year in terms of people at his position, so he's listed as a power forward on dunks and threes, and he does play a lot of power forward, but he's in the 90th percentile of defensive impact according to their estimated plus minus, and he's like a little below average on offense, which I think tracks. But the defense that he's playing as a rookie is just like absurd. And I understand like the offensive stuff will define him in a lot of ways. I think in his development, like that will be the thing next year when we do a season preview. Like I guarantee you we will spend a lot of time talking about his offense and what his offensive game and his growth will need to look like. But the dude is already just a ridiculous defender. And I think that is clearly so much the identity of him in this team right now that I just kind of keep that in mind a little bit. Okay. Evan, it's trade deadline day. The
Yeah.
Cavs, they've made their big move. I think we know that.
Yes.
Do you feel like that another trade is absolutely necessary? I tend to think that maybe that there is a need to do something, right? I think you could argue that like the 15-man roster, you would like to upgrade it in certain spots. Like he's not going. It doesn't seem like he's going to Moscow, but like you would probably like to upgrade on the Kevin Pango spot. You would like to maybe upgrade on like the edge of this roster, but the core of this rotation and this team, I think, is set. I think maybe you want to find a buyout guy if possible if you can clear a roster spot. I think there's obviously some financial considerations and things that could help you make a deal with the exceptions you still have with and potentially, but you also have a full roster right now, so you have to move on from someone in a trade. Like these things are not exactly the cleanest way to like go out and get someone. But I think they've made their big move. I don't know if another trade is necessary. It would be maybe optimal to maximize your 50-man roster depth. But I think the core of the roster is sort of set, and I don't know if like another smaller move is going to change the trajectory of the team in a meaningful way.
Yeah, I really don't think. I mean, unless Dennis Schroeder ends up in Cleveland, I'm a big advocate that I think Schroeder and just upgrading the overall backup point guard position is just something the Cavs need to prioritize, whether it's through trade or through buyouts. I think, like you said, the Cavs have cashed in their main asset in the Ricky Rubio contract. They let the exception expire in the process, but I think we all kind of just maybe expected this to happen, especially because Jake Fisher reported that when the Knicks and I believe it was the Knicks and the Spurs, I believe, were getting involved in the Caris LeVert trade, it pushed the Cavs to kind of get a deal done now instead of at the deadline. And I think it's also beneficial for Cleveland to get LeVert back into the building as soon as possible so you can kind of get him acclimated to the roster. And the Cavs had the luxury of having a practice before Wednesday's game as well. So I think it just worked out it was a lot more cleaner to do it that way. But I'm interested to see what the Cavs do. They do have some smaller contracts they can move. They can move Ed Davis. They can move Kevin Pangos, which are two positions I think they need to upgrade on just a little bit, just in terms of just emergency center depth and point guard depth as well. I think the center depth is a little less pressing just because of the overabundance of big men Cleveland has on their roster to begin with. But at this point, unless like a trade truly materializes, that the Cavs somehow become like a third team to like flip a player, whether it's the trade that gets Cam Reddish to the Lakers that sacrifices Taylor Horton Tucker. The Cavs get involved in that, or they get involved for a second time in James Harden trade. I just don't really see them making move between now and 3 p.m. Eastern. They realistically could, but I think they're going to transition towards looking at what the buyout market is. And there's a lot of names that have been reported out there, and there's been a lot of just interesting pieces that could become available. I'm curious who Cleveland could sign. If I had like a wish list, I think maybe adding Gary Harris would be ideal, but I know I'm saying backup point, but like adding a shooter is always a good thing.
Gary Harris is the one to me, because if you get Gary Harris, I don't know
the
if
Cavs really have something cooking if they add Gary Harris to their roster.
Like I don't know. I think like I don't know if I would say go as far as to say like he changes. I don't think he's like an impactful enough player to like change the trajectory of what you're doing, right? Like I don't
trajectory, but you're adding shooting to this offense, which is always a welcome thing in the NBA.
Well, and I talking to friend of the program, voice of the Magic Radio, Jake Chapman. I was asking about Gary Harris and Terrence Ross like we go, just picking his brain on what they've been, because he watches that team all the time. And he had said that Harris has been he's shooting 39% from 3 this year. He said he thinks the defense has been a little worse since he got to Orlando, but like that could be an effort thing. And the overall numbers bear this out, but he's having kind of a bounce back offensive season. He's got the best true shooting percentage that he's had since 2018. He's got the best effective field goal percentage he's had since 2018, which is around when some of those core injuries started. This would be a guy that like you wouldn't retain his bird rights and things in the offseason, which is like kind of a bummer. But like this would be a guy that at 27 would be another wing piece you could use. I think would clearly be helpful if you could bring him in and have him be like, look, I think like he would be ahead of like Dean Wade. He would obviously be an upgrade on Dylan Windler. He would obviously be an upgrade on Lamar Stevens. He would be another like guy you could play with, like in terms of playing with Okoro and having a guy that can be like a fiend on that end of the floor. Like there's a lot to like about that fit if you could figure it off. I think he's a guy that you'd want to find a way to like it's a guy you'd honestly want, not just for now, but for going forward. And that like not returning his bird rights and things makes it like a little, complicated as far as that goes. But also, Evan, perhaps importantly to a certain guy who cuts those checks, he's a Michigan State guy. And, we know what JB Bickerstaff says about the grit of the Michigan State Spartans that come through. It's just clearly an important and vital thing there.
I'm going to keep pitching names to you. Eric Bledsoe is a buyout candidate with Portland. Would you hate his fit? Because I feel like he's a JB Bickerstaff type point guard. He's older, but I wouldn't hate adding Bledsoe to the fold over Rondo.
Upgrade over Rondo. Would prefer Harris.
Okay, he's probably third on my priority list.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but like
I go scheme. Yeah, I just go wing who can shoot. Because like that is like the roster weakness, and like I would take like honestly, I think we get to the playoffs, like Caris LeVert's probably somewhat your backup point guard anyway.
Okay, that's fair. So I think you and I agree that we have Gary Harris 1. I think Eric Bledsoe is the least of my priorities. With the Cavs added to him, I don't think I'd be that upset. Like unlike some other folks where I pitched that idea. Tristan Thompson, I feel like he's going to be bought out by the Pacers. I would want him back in Cleveland just as a backup big.
Yeah,
an overall vibe guy.
Yeah, there's some like redundancy maybe with like a Davis to some degree, but he's also like a bigger guy that can like he's gonna be better if you needed in a pinch to play him against like Embiid in the playoffs or something. Or like follow Giannis for a little bit. I would probably trust him to do that a little more than a Davis, just to be a little more physical. But like I don't know if Tristan is. I don't know how impactful he is at this point, but again, like the tricky thing about this that I think we should emphasize is whether it's Gary Harris, Eric Bledsoe.
The Cavs have to create a roster space. I think I saw what Keith Smith said. I've been sniffing around. Obviously, Kevin Pangos isn't with CSKA Moscow yet, but I do think he will be waived by the Cavs after the deadline, so he is free to sign over back in Europe. But that creates a roster spot, but then that gets tricky too. Do you want to bring in another player, or do you want to like guarantee the contract to Brandon Goodwin for the rest of the year and maybe use a two-way spot on somebody else?
I would, if you could get one of the guys we're talking about, I would pick that over Goodwin.
Oh, but absolutely.
If you could get Harris, Thompson, or Bledsoe, you get one of those guys, or like just you can get one of them, right? I would go with one of those guys. But if not, I would probably go Goodwin, and then just because I think you've seen I guess we've just seen him be impactful, but I would suspect they could get one of the guys. Because like obviously
Yeah.
I think like the Nets, the Lakers, just because of the markets and things, like you would think some guys might go there, but you might be able to get one of these guys that doesn't go to those other places.
Yeah, no, I think that's ideal at the end of the day. You and I agree that Gary Harris would be the highest on the priority list. I would probably go Harris, Thompson, Bledsoe, but again, I wouldn't be upset if they signed either of the other two. But like Harris is like the guy. I blame Nekias Duncan, a very smart, very talented basketball writer, for putting this idea in my head. But Gary Harris unlocks a lot of unlocks or like makes a huge difference, but like he's a shooting wing. It's one of the Cleveland's biggest needs. And I think in the playoffs, if you have like a bench lineup of Caris LeVert, Gary Harris, Kevin Love, Jetty Osman, like those four coming off the bench for you, like that's a pretty solid group to have. Like, and then you can kind of like JB Bickerstaff as a coach who likes to mesh his starting lineup with his bench units as well. Like you sprinkle in all that shooting options, and then Caris LeVert is like a bigger point guard that you play in those scenarios. You have some really interesting rotations and wrinkles you could really roll out too. Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of like depth and options that the Cavs suddenly have on their hands. And also you have to factor in Larry Markkinen too. That's technically another shooter too, who is coming back eventually.
Mhm.
Like you're gonna have a lot of options. So like yeah, Gary Harris is like high on my wish list. So at this point, barring anything unforeseen, I don't see the Cavs really making another trade at this juncture, just because I mean, Boston's made it over abundantly clear that Dennis Schroeder is available. I think ideally, like if the Cavs are able to get him, great. Like that's a young upgrade at the point guard spot, and I think you might get. Do you get his bird rights? Does Boston have his bird rights right now?
No,
I don't think they do.
Boston, no, but he's in a situation that whoever trades for him is unless
It's
he's
a
gonna take another
rental.
discount, it's a rental. Like it is,
Okay.
yeah.
And the
He
only thing is, if the Cavs are able to trade for Schroeder, you're gonna have to sacrifice one of Ed Davis or Kevin Pangos, along with probably Dylan Windler. And the only luxury of that is you open up roster spaces. So when buyouts do happen, you don't have to do this awkward song and dance of who do we have to waive in order to sign this player.
Yeah, and remember the Cavs are the LeVert trade created about $300,000 in extra room under the tax, so like they do have a tiny bit more flexibility here in new terms of using DPEs and things. So we'll see what the Cavs do. We're recording this, early on deadline day on February 10th. So we have the live Locked On NBA show later that you should go check out on the Locked On NBA YouTube channel, and we'll be breaking it down later on Thursday into Friday morning before we get to Cavs Pacers. LeVert already gets his homecoming game in Indiana. Hope. Shouts to the video editor who has to do the tribute video like in rapid succession for Caris LeVert, because that is just that's like a 48-hour turnaround time or whatever. But Evan, any final thoughts? Any last things you want to say before we hit the eject button here?
No, man. It's 29, feeling fine. I got hard out in a few minutes, so I'm not gonna really stall too much here. But yeah, no, it's the Cavs are fun. It's hard to believe that they are this good. I think that's just a consistent question is how, and I really have no logical explanation. This Cavs team has bucked a lot of conventional trends. I think winning fixes a lot of things, and Darius Garland going nuclear fixes a lot of things too. But yeah, the deadline day is going to be chaos. It's nice not to really have to stress about it, and I can just kind of enjoy my day a little bit.
Yeah, excited to check out the Locked On show. Go check that out. If something else happens, one of Evan and I will be sliding through there
I'll
to do
be
some.
there.
We'll be doing some chatting. There's a lot of fun stuff. But if you want a great second listen today,
I'm
check.
also wearing like a early LeBron era warm up top. That's fun too.
Now make your second listen today Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms. Be well, everyone. Be safe. Subscribe, rate, review, etc. See you tomorrow.